Let's make some refined sugar-free thin mint cookies. Welcome back to the Whole Food Plant-Based Cooking Show, where we make plant-based cooking easy. I'm Jill, and today we are making thin mint cookies because Girl Scout cookie season is over, and I want you to still be able to enjoy those delicious little cookies. So we're going to jump right in. All of our pantry ingredients today are from our partner Essential Organics, who carry over 600 organic products. And if you use the code PLANTBASEDEASY at checkout, you'll get 10% off your first order. So we're going to start with our dry ingredients here. So I've got 3/4 of a cup of rolled oats, and these are organic rolled oats. 3/4 of a cup of almond flour. 3/4 of a cup of dates. 1/4 cup of cocoa powder. So we're going to blitz these up. We're just kind of going to break up those dates and those oats a little bit before we add our wet ingredients. Okay, that is enough. So now we're going to add 1 tablespoon of tahini. And if you don't have tahini, you could use almond butter, or even peanut butter would work. But I think the peanut butter might overpower the mint flavor just a little bit. So almond butter or cashew butter even will work. We've got 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1/2 teaspoon of peppermint extract, 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder. And then I've got 2 tablespoons of water here, but we're going to add that once this all gets blended together and it starts coming together a little bit and sticking together. We're going to just slowly pour the water in until that whole mixture clumps together. Okay, and if you check it, if you used all of your water and it's still crumbly like this and it's not sticking together, sometimes it's just that, the dates are a little bit more dry. You can just add another tablespoon of water just slowly at a time until that mixture clumps together, because we need it to clump together so we can roll it out. All right, there we go. So that's what you're looking for. You're looking for that stuck together part. So I'm going to grab a baking tray, some parchment paper, and a rolling pin, and I'll show you the next step. Okay, so we've got our parchment paper here. I've got 3 pieces, so 1 for the pan and then 2 for rolling. Got a little spatula, and I've got a little 2-inch cookie cutter. Just roughly, it needs to be close to that shape. We're just trying to go for the same size of the Thin Mint cookie. So we're going to pour our mixture out here. I'm going to mound it up and then press it down, kind of roughly in a rectangle shape. I'm going to put our other piece of parchment on top. And then I put a little bit of water on the countertop under that first piece of parchment, just so it doesn't slip and slide around. It probably will move a little bit, but at least it holds it a little bit. Now, they're Thin Mint cookies, right? So that cookie wafer has to be pretty darn thin. So we're going to make them as thin as we can, but still be able to scrape them up with our spatula after cutting them out and getting them off without them falling apart. So you're talking, I don't know, a couple millimeters thick, maybe just under 1/4 of an inch thick. Okay. That's for our first round. And then you're just going to cookie cut as many as you can. All right, when you get it all cookie cutted out, then we just gently scrape them up and put them onto our cookie sheet. And you just keep rolling it out until you've used up all of that mixture. Okay, now we've got them all rolled out, and it'll roughly make somewhere between 25 and 30 cookies, just depending on the size of your cutter and how thin you're rolling them. So you want to have your oven already preheated to 350 degrees, and we're going to put these in we're going to start with 15 minutes, but we're really kind of wanting to hit the 17-minute mark just to make them nice and crispy. While we're waiting for that, I'd like to share some background on our show. The Whole Food Plant-Based Cooking Show is crowd-funded, which means these free weekly recipe videos, along with our entire catalog of free printable recipes on our website, plantbasedcookingshow.com, and our Plant-Based Cooking Made Easy cookbook series, are all made possible in part by the generous patronage of our supporting membership community. So if you love our recipes, I invite you to join us on our mission to make plant-based cooking easy, and follow the link in the description to become a supporting member today. There's no denying the plant-based diet is a nutrient powerhouse, but did you know there are a handful of hard-to-get nutrients even well-crafted diets are often lacking? The latest research suggests that complementing your diet with a few specific vitamins, minerals, and omega-3s will help boost your energy and keep you thriving for the long term. That's why my daily health routine includes Complement Essential. Complement Essential contains the 8 critical nutrients lacking from most plant-based diets in dosages optimized specifically for us. As a special discount for our viewers, just use code PLANTBASEDEASY at checkout to save 15% off of your order. Okay, for our next step, we're gonna make just a simple little date paste. So this one is optional. Because we're using an unsweetened chocolate to coat the cookies, we need just a little bit extra sweetness. So we're gonna make a date paste to smooth on each cookie before we dip them in the chocolate. But if you're using a sweetened chocolate, you probably won't need this really. You'll have to try it yourself and make it and see how sweet it is. But if you're using the sweetened chocolate, you probably aren't going to need to have the date paste in there. So I've got 1/2 cup of dates and then 2 tablespoons of hot water. And we're just going to blend this up and keep scraping it down until it's a nice smooth paste that you can spread on those cookies. Okay, so at this point, this will probably work. To do this a small amount is really fiddly. It's probably easier just to do like a double batch or even a triple batch of this, because you can use it in your coffee or your tea or whatever and have it just on hand in the refrigerator. And there's probably going to be a question out there, why can't I just use maple syrup? You don't want to use something that liquidy on the cookies because it will kind of reconstitute that cookie batter and you won't have your nice crisp snap of a cookie like Thin Mints. All right, so I'm going to move this stuff out and we're going to melt our chocolate. All right, so our chocolate is melted, and how I did it, I used a double boiler. I just used my smallest saucepan, filled it up with water, got it up to boiling, and then I set this bowl on there, and you kind of need a flatter type of bowl for dipping. You don't want to have to melt this and then pour it into something else for your dipping. Just use the same container. And then you just, slowly, you can just keep stirring it until it's liquefied like this. And now I have a teaspoon of peppermint extract that I'm going to stir into it. You don't want to melt it with the chocolate because it just kind of kills some of the flavor. So we're just going to stir that in really good. And then we're going to let this sit and cool a little bit because right now it's really hot. And if you start dipping those, you're going to get it on your fingertips and you're going to get scalded. So we're just going to mix it in and let it sit because we have another step to work on anyway, which is frosting or spreading the date paste on our little cookies. So these are completely cooled already. Once I took them out of the oven, I stuck them into the refrigerator just to cool them down quickly. And we're just going to use a little bit of our paste. Just a very thin layer of paste, like that. Place them on our cookie sheet. We'll just keep going until we get them all done. I'm going to finish these up, and then I'll show you how to do the dipping part. All right, so now on to the trickiest part. So our chocolate is cooled down a little bit. You're going to need a couple forks, or this is just the way I like to do it. So I take one of the cookies, and I put it face down with the date paste face down like that. Then I flip it over carefully because we're trying to get just kind of a thin layer of chocolate. And then I hold it sideways and I just kind of shake off the excess chocolate. Because this is an unsweetened chocolate, you don't want a huge thick coat of that chocolate or else it will just be too bitter. And then you place it on your cookie sheet. All right, I'm gonna keep going with these until I finish, and then I'm gonna put them in the refrigerator, just straight from the tray, the whole tray into the refrigerator to solidify that chocolate. And then once they're done, that's what you wanna keep them in the refrigerator also, because these melt very fast. Once they're completely cooled, you can stack them on top of each other and they won't stick together. Okay, so they are fresh out of the freezer. If you want to come in and take a look, this is what they're going to look like. At this point, it looks a little messy and sloppy, but once you pick them up and, you know, you can, if you've got a little bit of the chocolate left around the edges, you can just kind of break it off like that. But other than that, I'm going to put some on a plate and I'll meet you at the table for a taste. All right, here we go. I'm going to try one of these little guys. Cookie dance. Oh, yes. Now, I can eat as many of these as I want because they're super healthy, super good for you. Come on back next week for another great recipe.